I've seen thanks. We can rename ourselves with also our organization. So maybe for the one who wants, that would be a good way to know who is who. Hi, Renate. Nice to see you.
Hi, nice to
And
see you too.
that you could join on such a short notice.
Yeah,
Great.
actually very short notice because I just read your email because I was out of office yesterday.
Yeah, by the way, I received the invite, so okay. I will never see her tomorrow, but really nice. Thanks for joining. We wait 2 more minutes for the other to join. Maybe, Abraham, you could also share the survey on Mentimeter so that people in the room can already start with it, and then we can do the intro, Edgar.
Okay.
Yes, sure. Let me know when we are ready to start, but I see people are still joining, so that's good.
So normally you see on the screen, we are showing something called Mentimeter. And when you join, you should be able to indicate whether, like which kind of organization you are. And we should see the results straight away.
Do we get a link to the Mentimeter?
So normally we will have Abraham always sharing his screen. So we'll have few questions during the presentation to get your feedback. Normally you don't even need the link. You just have to click on join on the screen, and then everybody can at the same time.
So let's still wait a couple of minutes, or maybe, I don't know.
Maybe we can start at 10:05.
Okay.
think we can start, Edgar, no?
Yes, great. Let's go ahead. So, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining and participating in this webinar open, let's say, discussion that we want to have today with you. My name is Edgar Aguilar, and I am leading the value chains work of the UNDP Insurance and Risk Finance Facility. I am based in Rome, Italy, and we have commissioned this study to iGravity on how best to engage with investors in the role in promoting and supporting the agri-insurance agenda. So maybe just to start and to give you a bit of the context on why and how UNDP is engaging on this. So in a world of rising risks, as you may know, we have more than, I would say, 3 to 4 billion of people who are living in very climate vulnerable places. We have also, I would say, for only 2023, 380 billion USD in losses due to disasters. And then also due to the overall and general unmet financing for smallholder farmers and agro SMEs in the global south, UNDP is now looking to leverage the role of insurance and risk finance for protecting and enabling development. So through our country offices, as you may know, UNDP is present in more than 150 countries. We work closely with governments to integrate insurance and risk finance into their sustainable and national agendas with the aim to achieve the SDGs. To achieve this overall objective, UNDP launched its insurance and risk finance facility as, let's say, the technical arm of UNDP, responsible of engaging with the insurance industry and leveraging the, let's say, expertise resources, also in terms of risk capacity absorption, and then also the network of the insurance industry for development to contribute to the development agenda. So this means that we work closely with the global insurance companies, reinsurance companies, also brokers through a global partnership that we have with the Insurance Development Forum that gathers and convenes some of the top biggest companies around the world. So together with governments, we are supporting, let's say, the development of local inclusive, well-functioning insurance markets to see how those global initiatives can land into the local markets. One of the key mainstreams of our work as UNDP is focusing on building the resilience of food systems. We see that insurance can be one instrument among many others that can be used to de-risk the food systems and to attract financing for climate adaptation and to achieve actually the SDGs in the global south. So we are, as part of this mandate to build the resilience of food systems, we received funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to implement what we call our Financial Resilience in Agriculture initiative that is looking to build the financial resilience of smallholder farmers and actors along their value chains, and also their adaptation capacities against climate change through the development and implementation of agriculture insurance programs. We do this not as an, I mean, of course, we're not new in the space. I would say this is not new for the agendas on development. So we actually are trying to scale up those innovative approaches that have been tested for the last 10 to 15 years with support of donors and other development partners, actually engaging with governments on how we can support their national agriculture insurance programs, and how the governments can take a leading role in attracting the private sector to de-risk their food systems in order to attract the financing. So now we are very much interested in, let's say, learning, understanding how best to engage with investors, as you are key actors deploying your instruments into these local markets. So we are very much curious to see how we can promote, leverage on your existing relations along the value chain to attract and channel that required financing that will allow us to support and transform the food systems of, the development markets in the Global South. So I think I will pause now here. This was more of this kind of context of how and why UNDP is doing this work. And now Morgan and team will get us through the presentation to go more into the findings of what we have achieved so far. Thanks.
Thanks, Edgar, and welcome also from my side. So my name is Morgan. I'm working for iGravity, where I'm leading the consulting work. And today I'm also joined with my colleagues Lukman and Abraham, which will also speak and share some insight during the presentation. So I think I will go quite quickly on the objective of the webinar. So as Edgar was also presenting or sharing today, what we want to do is really to test the narrative around agri-insurances with investors and their investees. So that's why we are here today, and it will be really a proactive session. So we'll share something and we hope to get your feedback. And the second aspect is also to raise interest for an agri-insurance pilot project in partnership with UNDP. So quickly on the project, and I think Edgar gave you a bit the high-level overview. So now iGravity is one of the consultancy helping UNDP in the risk facility on their endeavor, and we are really focusing on the investor. So at the end, we want to understand a bit the perception that investors have of agri-insurance, to also understand a bit more how they could become more active in promoting agri-insurance adoption at farmer level. And so UNDP believe that certain investors, we are aware that not all investors will be interested by this topic, but a niche of investor, the one who understand the benefits of agri-insurances, could take a more proactive role in really promoting this insurance adoption. And as a result of this project, what we want to achieve is that both the investor and the investee understand and appreciate the value of agri-insurance and also the applicability to their operation. So that would be one of the key aspects we want to achieve. The second one is that an investor and again the investees can understand a bit more the role that they could play, because I think it's also what came out of the interviews when we were speaking with them. Some are willing to do something, but they don't really know where to start. So that is also one of the aspects that we want to clarify with this project. And the last one would be to identify one investor and one investee that will be willing to pilot an insurance bundle model with UNDP and the government. So as we were explaining, we, as part of this project, we spoke with different investors. We'll speak also with the investee, but we are a bit more advanced on the interviews that we did with the investors. We spoke with around 15 and asking them about the level of awareness that they had about agri. Sorry for that, but now we are recorded. About their level of awareness, we realized that most of them were still having a quite limited level of awareness around agri-insurances. And I think that was largely due to the complexity of agri-insurance, as well as the limited availability of evidence of the added value of this agri-insurance. Around the perception. So again, when speaking with this investor, we realized that the investor which were the most interested in agri-insurance were what we call the impact investor, the one which are also active in the agricultural sector, but not only, really also the nexus, so energy, water, etc. And the investor which are invested in companies which have a link to farmers, be it as clients or suppliers. And really those kind of investors were the one recognizing also the value added of agri-insurance as the de-risking mechanism. when we asked them about the benefits, and we will explain a bit more what are the benefits of agri-insurances later on during the presentation, but what came out is that only one of the three features offered by agri-insurances was really well understood by the investor. This one was these financial protection features offered by the insurance. But the other two features, so the climate risk mitigation one and the development outcomes impacts that you can achieve with an agri-insurance, those one were either less value, either less understood by investors, but this was really what came out of the discussion. And then regarding a bit the limits that investors were seeing when we asked them about their role or their more active involvement in promoting the adoption of agri-insurances, what they were saying is that in the traditional model, the agri-insurance are sold to the farmers, so really at individual level, and is quite far away from the investor. So it's not a product that an investor could buy. And that's why for them it was a bit difficult to see a bit the level of decision and of influence that they could have. So I think that was one of the key limitation. And investors were saying that if it would be at a higher level or a more aggregated level, that would be probably easier for them to participate. We'll also show you an example later on that aspect. And when we asked them also whether they could be willing to take a financial role, so really incentivizing even the agri-insurance uptake by smallholder farmers, here they were saying that because this level of evidence of benefit for investor is still quite limited, that was a bit the missing part in taking a more active role there. Finally, on the pilot, so here we heard really positive feedback from the different investors we spoke with. So they really saw or show interest for a pilot with UNDP and also the government. They were, however, asking to get more details. So that will be also something that we'll present today. So I went quite fast, but I think the idea was really to show you what were the initial takeaway of these interviews. And we use these interviews as a way to build the narrative that we want to use when speaking with investors. And that will be exactly what we will test with you now. So I don't know if there are questions. Again, it's an interactive session. So if you have questions, you can interrupt me before I move to the next part. If there are no questions, I continue. So maybe starting with the problem and why we think agri-insurances are relevant for investors. So here we would like to show you or share the example of Mobisol, which was a rapidly growing company that provided solar energy solution to low-income households in East Africa. And I think it was in 2019 or 2020 that Mobisol had issue and had to cease its operation due to financial difficulty faced by the customer. And basically, the customer, the farmers, there were a lot of climate events in these years. The farmers had difficulty to pay for their installment for the solar panel, which puts Mobisol in difficulty, and as a result, they had to cease their operation. As you can see, Mobisol was supported by different investors, so IFC, FMO, DG, FinFund, and a more commercial one called Investec Asset Manager. And for all these investors, so having Mobisol in difficulty, it was really bad for their impact and also financial return that they were expected on this investment. On the right-hand side, we think that if the farmer would have been insured, then they will have had this financial protection and they would have been able to pay for their installment. So today, Mobisol would probably still be in activity. So I think what it shows you here on this example is that, so we know that climate change is a global issue. Farmers would be the most strongly impacted, but not only, because all the companies which are somehow linked with this farmer, and in this case, we are putting the example of a company who has farmers as a client, they are also impacted, and as a result, the investor in this company are also impacted. We have another example, and here I will hand over to Lukman, who is also in the webinar, to share more about this one. Lukman, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Morgan. So this other company, so it's a processing and distribution company dealing in coconut oil. So they purchase coconuts from smallholder farmers. And what happened is that they encountered difficulties in meeting the targets due to a supply shortage from farmers and impacting their revenues and compromising the ability to repay debt, right? So they've taken debt from an investor, and because of the impact, they cannot actually pay this debt. And for the investors, so they had to come in and come up with a debt restructuring agreement and allowing the company to defer payments until 3 years later when they anticipate to start distributing again, because they had to meet the local demand first before continuing with the export operations. And the cost of funds will increase in the third year because they weren't able to, the investors weren't able to collect the amount for the past 3 years, right? And with the export activities, they're able to now meet the demand and the prices that they expect, hence the ability to now recover from the previous climate financial shock. And insurance here, had the farmers, the smallholder farmers been insured, they would have received the payout at that time and recover more quickly, so that the smallholder farmers and the company could also get back on their feet and meet their demand quite sooner, rather than probably wait for other seasons to pass. And this strengthens the processing and distribution for the company's supply chain. And here also, the narrative is the same. Even if you have the farmers as your suppliers, you can see that their disruption can be quite significant for the whole value chain. And in this case, the value chain are referring to the smallholder farmers, the company, and the investors as well. Yeah, back to you, Morgan.
Thanks, Lukman. So here may be a summary, but I think it was also showed by the two examples that we summarized. So here we would like to show you what we see as key benefits of the agri-insurance. And I think most of the time only the first one is well understood. So we would like to really stress that agri-insurances can provide 3 benefits to the investors. And here, so starting on the top, from the need from the investor, and then going back to the right inside of the slide and highlighting the agri-insurance offers to these investors. So what we have heard also in the interview, so investors are needing protection, needs solution to protect their investment portfolio today against financial loss. And here, what the agri-insurance can offer is this financial protection, because then the risk will be transferred to the insurance company, which will pay the farmers in case of droughts, floods, etc. So the farmers will become more financially resilient, and then as a result, the company linked to the farmer as well, and the investor in the company as well. So I think here you understand the value chain quite straight, quite easily. The second aspect that investors are looking for is sustainable solution, which allow them to mitigate the climate risk exposure of their portfolio. Because as you can see, the first one is more something that you pay for the insurance and you will have this financial protection today. The second one is more trying to address the root cause of the problem, if I can put it that way. So really trying to improve the resilience of smallholder farmers. And this feature is often embedded in the design of insurance products.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome. So there is this climate risk mitigation aspect, as I was saying, within the agri-insurances in the way it's done. So either it's really designed within the product, so you will have premium reduction if as a farmer you can show that you are investing in the development of more sustainable practices. What the research has shown as well is that farmers which are insured tend to invest more in their sustainable practices. So really there is a benefit of the agri-insurances here. And the last one is really the impact on the social and environmental aspect, because when you are using these agri-insurances, so it improves the financial resilience of the farmers. That would be the social aspect. And on the environmental side, as I was saying, because of this climate risk mitigation aspect, there is also a climate resilience improvement at farmer level. So again, to summarize, we have three benefits in the agri-insurance. The first one, which is the most known, is the financial protection, but the climate risk mitigation aspect and the associated social and environmental impact are also really a good feature of the agri-insurances, which could be useful for investors. Yeah. So now that we have provided you a bit more insight on this value proposition of the agri-insurances, we would like to hear your feedback. We have two questions. Again, you should see on the screen, you should see that you can join the Mentimeter. So if you click on join, you would see the question and we would see then the results straight away. And again, it's an interactive session. So if you also want to speak up and share insights, please feel free to do so. So the first one is, given your investment mandate, do you find agri-insurance an appealing instrument? Not sure yet for two, so we need to be even more explicit. But I'm glad to see that 7 see the value added.
Maybe Morgan, while we still wait for a couple of answers. I mean, I just want to say that so far, agri-insurance has, let's say, proven that it can fulfill a mandate, a role. What is still not, let's say, effective, it's on the ecosystem and in the markets where they are implemented. So this is actually, as UNDP, how we are supporting the government and the insurance private sector, I mean, the insurance industry in those markets to create those well-functioning markets that can give the full opportunity to the insurance instrument per se to fulfill its role. So I would say this is quite complementary to what Morgan was explaining on the role of insurance as what its mandate to do and to achieve. But then, of course, there are challenges around the ecosystems and the markets where they are implemented and tested. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what Morgan. And connect us to the pilot. I will be there talking later. Thanks.
Maybe we can move to the next question. So if yes, which specific features are most relevant to you and why? And here again, for us, it's important to understand that because you have seen there's 3 features. We have the feeling the first one is better understood. We don't know if it's better valued also. So I think having your insight here would also be useful.
Morgan.
Yes.
Hi, it's Brandon. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because I put myself down as not sure yet, even though I'm a fervent believer in everything of the, impact, outcome, need, all the rest of it. What is it that you're recommending to invest in? what is the investable asset in the agricultural insurance value chain? Because insurers, reinsurers obviously invest with risk capital. And then you've got brokers, agents, transactional stuff that's investable, but I'm just curious. That's why I answered on the last one, and I'm not filling in this because I'm not sure what we're investing in.
I'm not sure I understood fully your question.
So the investment could be to invest in agricultural insurance.
Yeah.
Just sort of simplify it. I suppose I could buy an insurer, buy a broker, or buy an agricultural company that distributes agricultural products.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the three options.
We will come into that in a bit, where in which company we would see the added value of agri insurances. So we don't see an investor investing in an insurance company as one of the key role that investor could play. So that will come later. So maybe I hope after the next few slides, you will understand a bit better how we see it. But it's really more of a promotion role that we see for investors in actively looking at their portfolio and where agri insurances could add value, and then promoting this bundling to happen, etc., in partnership with with insurance company, more than an investor investing directly in those insurance company. That could be a way, but it's not the only one.
I want to react quickly, Morgan, to that one. So I mean, it's true. I think like now there are more investments flowing into the insurance ecosystem, like brokers, local insurance companies. I think what is also missing at us as UNDP, what we are doing is to see this alignment with the role of the government. So also investing in building that full system in the country, that whatever innovation is piloted with the private sector is also connected to the national agenda of a government that will then help us scale up those innovations at a level that can reach out to the millions of people that need the instruments, and not only to those, let's say, thousands that can benefit from the work of one broker or one insurance company. So talking on the investment side to the local insurance industry, it's also how do we see the connection to the role of the government into that? And that's what we do as UNDP. We try to bring them also into the discussion to create that full ecosystem. Then we will be presenting the other parts of how we see the role of investors in integrating that solution as part of their portfolio, but it will come with the slides. Yes, thanks.
Thanks, Edgar. So thanks for the feedback. We'll continue and hopefully it become a bit clearer. Can you see my screen now, or is it still the Menti? You can see it, right? Good. So here, what we have tried to show is a bit map the different actors and show for which kind of investors and investee the agri insurance could be relevant. In starting from the top, so we're saying that we have the impact investor and the commercial investor, which are investing in the agricultural sector. And
share your screen again. I can't see. Sorry, I think you'll have to share your screen again.
I'm not showing. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Thanks. No, it should be better to follow. So as I was saying, there are two main type of investor that could be interesting in this topic of agri insurances, especially the impact investor, but also the commercial investor, which are investing in the agricultural sector and its nexus. So by nexus, we speak about water, energy, and also financial inclusion. On the impact investor side, we think that they might be even more interested, especially the one which have impact commitment toward climate resilience, especially because of these three benefits that I shared with you earlier. And those investors which are investing in company having smallholder farmers as clients on the left-hand side, and the one having smallholder farmers as supplier might be especially also interested in the topic of agri insurances. So on the left-hand side, you see the company having smallholder farmers as clients. So we have the financial institution. So that would be all the MFIs having the smallholder farmers. You have the agri-tech, which also have smallholder farmers as client, the energy providers. So we showed the Mobisol example earlier today, as well as the pre-production. So all the input suppliers, etc., which sell their input to the smallholders. So here, having an agri-insurance embedded in their business model might be a key asset. And on the right-hand side, when we look at the companies which are having smallholder farmer as suppliers, so we have all the production and processing companies. So they are the one having sometime even programmed to fidelize the smallholder farmers. So I think those two kind of bucket of company might be also quite interested in agri-insurance products. For the distribution company and the retail, it might be as well, but then they need to really be looking at the sustainability of their value chain and resilience of their value chain to see an advantage, but it might be a bit further away from them, but I think it could be also interesting. So I hope it provided you a bit more with an overview of what we have in mind and for which player we think agri-insurances could be relevant. And now again, we would like to hear a bit your view. So we could jump back to the Mentimeter with the question of which type of investees do you believe agri-insurance is most relevant and why? And here again, I shared a bit the view from what we've heard during the interviews, but we have not spoken to everybody, so happy to hear your view as well. And if we are missing some bucket of companies, please tell us as well.
We are advancing a bit on the comments on the pilot. And I think, as you mentioned at the beginning, there is kind of limited evidence, right, on how agri-insurance can be, I mean, even if there is some evidence, it's quite limited to see the impact, right, in terms of, I mean, financial resilience, increase on incomes, improve of livelihoods, access to services, adoption of new practices. So as part of the pilot, we want also to have that, say, diversity in the portfolio to see where it can works best, you know? So if you bundle insurance with an irrigation system, or if you bundle insurance with a loan, we want to see also where it can have a higher impact and return on investment for the, of course, the actors within the pilot. So that's also part of what we would like to be pilot testing as part of this initiative that we are implementing. Mm-hmm.
Good, thanks a lot for the feedback. So I see financial institution, agri-tech, pre-production, and production harvesting so far. So I share again my screen. You can see it, eh?
Not yet.
Can you?
No.
Still showing the results.
You can see.
Okay,
I
it's
can
okay.
see now, yeah.
It's okay now.
Oh, we've lost you again.
I think I'm clicking. I'm kicked off by Mentimeter.
Yes.
Maybe you need. No,
Yeah.
it works.
Now it talks, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Good, thanks. So now we'd like to share a bit our ideas of the role that we could foresee for investors. Again, it's what we have heard, a proposal based on the thing that we discuss also together internally. So here we'll have the same question at the end on what you foresee as the most interesting, but let me maybe share with you the initial ideas. So starting from the left-hand side, we think that investor could take a more active role in raising awareness around agri-insurances. And that could be a topic that they integrate a bit more in their investment process. So we have heard it's often part of the due diligence process when they assess risk. So normally they will speak with different companies and ask a list of the insurances they have. So one of the insurance could be this agri-insurance at smaller level, and that would be something then integrated in their process. Another way of doing it, it's when they manage the risk. So once they have invested for the company which have not yet an agri-insurance, to maybe also put that on the discussion topic when they speak with their investees. So what about agri-insurance? Do you think it could add value, etc.? The second idea is to facilitate the creation of agri-insurance bundle model. So here the investor, if they're well connected, could connect the investee with insurance firm to enable the incorporation of this insurance product within the business model of the investees. So we have seen different model of processor or input provider bundling an insurance product within their product offering. So that is something that has been done, that is done still too few. So maybe having an investor helping connecting their investees with the insurance company could help. Another role could be to support the piloting of agri-insurances bundle by their portfolio company. We will show also an example later on, but if you have some investors which have TA budget or which have access to TA budget from other facilities, so that could be also a way to support the development of such offering. And the last one would be to invest in funds which support the creation of agri-insurance. So I think that was the ideas mentioned before. So we have seen also investor promoting the creation of such solution by investing in such fund. The third role that we could envisage is an investor providing financial incentive to increase adoption of agri-insurances. So here there are two main ways of doing it. So either the investor can provide a financial incentive to their investees. So for example, if you provide debt financing, you could have a reduction in the loan to your investee if this investee is subsidizing the premium to smallholder farmers they work with. And the other way is doing it directly. So an investor subsidizing part or prepaying the premium. And that is also something that we have seen or done by investors that we have been speaking with.
Sorry, Morgan, I see a lot of people cannot see your screen.
Really?
Up in the screen, there is the view options, and there you have share the screens, and there you pick the option. Well, I think now Abraham stops, and then you can. Okay.
Yeah, I've removed the Mentimeter, so
yeah.
sorry
Okay.
about that.
Sorry, Morgan.
So I hope you could follow. I just finished the option 3, and now I'm moving to option 4. So the last option is or the last proposition is to advocate to support the scaling of bundling models. So here there are many ways of doing it, but for the investor which have been experiencing or exposed to agri-insurances, they could share all the data. And I think that was also something that Edgar mentioned. Data is missing and the proof that is working is sometimes missing. So sharing all the data generated with other could help promoting the adoption. And the last one is to advocate to mobilize other investors. So once you see it has worked for your portfolio, maybe speak with other investors active in the same agri sector and its nexus to also encourage them to do the same. So I hope you could follow the first 3 one, otherwise happy to repeat. So those were the 4 roles that we foresee. They are not exclusive, they could be combined. And I think depending on the investor mandate, some roles might be easier than others to take, but we wanted to show all of them. And I hope it helps. So now moving to the question. we wanted to ask you, what role do you believe investor could play in promoting agri-insurance, and what factor would encourage investor to take a more active role? And you can join the Mentimeter.
Again, I think as we will be presenting it in the pilot, I think we're opening and giving this opportunity to then pilot test together what would be the best role for investors. And a very particular part is that as part of that piloted phase, we can commit resources to actually generate that evidence, that is needed to prove that there is a business case opportunity in promoting, in investing, and in supporting the role of agri-insurance. So it's not just the piloting per se, but it's actually to be able to generate that business case that can then give us confidence that it actually works, why, how, which kind of return are we getting from these investments. I think that's part of what we're aiming to achieve with the pilot phase.
Good. Thanks for all the input. I think we can stop Mentimeter, Abraham.
And maybe also again stop the screen and share again.
Yeah, I will. We are learning while doing. Good. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Good. Perfect. Thanks. So now moving, we have 10 minutes left, so we'll go quickly through the pilot. And before, Edgar, you present what you have in mind, we wanted to share an example of an investor's role, because some investors have been promoting the adoption of agri-insurance. I think it's always good to illustrate that, because it can be also a source of inspiration. So we would like to share the example of Incofin, which participated in the development of a mezzo-model index-based satellite agricultural insurance in Nicaragua. And when they decided to do this project, they had two objectives. On one side, a business objective where they wanted to mitigate the exposure of the MFI agricultural portfolio to climate risk, but also a social objective, which was to increase the resilience of the smallholder farmers. And Ecofin has also TA facilities. So they used a part of the TA funding to launch a pilot project to develop this insurance. And you can see on the right inside who were the different actors involved in their role. We are happy to share more details afterwards, but really quickly. So we had an impact investor, which was Incofin, which invested already in 3 MFIs. And so they had the business relationship with the MFI, and they could also advise them. Then we had different donors, so FMO, IDB, and also Incofin with their TA facility. We had the local regulator in Nicaragua. And then there was a collaboration with 3 MFIs, which were acting as policyholder, a local insurance, which was the policy giver, and also an international reinsurer. And they built together, they designed this mezzo model agri-insurance. And the result of that, because that was also one of the limits that we quote at the beginning, for investor, if the policyholder are the farmers, it's sometimes difficult to play an active role. Whereas if you have a kind of aggregator, so with this mezzo level, that could be MFI, but that could be also other type of investees, taking this aggregation role, there was the advantage that there was a greater coverage of the smallholder farmers, but also the product was given as a more affordable price. So really you can see already the advantages of such coverage. So if you want to know more details, we're happy to share more. But with that, I think I will hand over to you, Edgar, to tell more about the pilot.
Yes, so I will try to be very short because we have 8 minutes left. Just to clarify something is that within this piece of work, we are not looking at investors in the role in investing in the local insurance market ecosystem, but more on how they can promote agro-insurance as an instrument that they can then integrate within their portfolio to manage the climatic risks. So as also mentioned, I mean, the key objective for us would be to gather that evidence. I mean, we want to pilot this to gather evidence to build a case for others to join the efforts while connecting the pilots to the implementation of a national agri-insurance program. So in most of the countries where we are present, we're working and supporting the governments in the scaling up of their national program. So this pilot is not going to be piloted in isolation, but actually is going to contribute to the thinking of the government while implementing the program. The scope, we have 5 key priority countries, are mentioned in the screen, but then we are present in 34 countries across the globe where we can also open up for discussions. We will not have the same level of engagement, but we can also explore what can be feasible. The product per se at this stage is more focusing on agro-insurance for smallholder farmers, maybe also options at the more meso level to protect the portfolio of those service providers like financial institutions, service providers. But then we are also open to hear, your needs, because as more we engage with investors, we realize that there are needs for insurance solutions all along the value chain and not only at the production farmers level. And then we're aiming to implement, let's say now this call for partnerships. And by beginning of next year, 2025, we would like to pilot this for at least 2 to 3 crop seasons in order to have enough experience, let's say, to gather that evidence and then create this kind of consortium with the investor, the investee, the government, and UNDP. So the learners are, it's as mentioned, this kind of evidence, and then this blueprint to and replicate the model within the same countries and same markets, but then also beyond as part of your portfolio in other markets. So I will stop now here, and I think we have a final slide showing our presence. Now let's go to that one, and I think we can open it here for your questions and discussions. But for us, this was, as Morgan mentioned, 2 objectives: to test the narrative on how to present to you the role of agri-insurance as an instrument to protect and enable development, and then second, to open up this call for pilot testing together a model with your partners and in different countries. So yeah, please, Morgan, and please over to you to engage in the discussion and share your questions. Please also do it on the chat as I see it, but happy to take this time to respond to some of them.
I see one question on the Incofin case. Did they push equity in the 3 MFI? That I will have to ask. I'm not sure. They were invested in the MFI. I'm not sure if it was debt or equity. I know Incofin does both. We will have to double check. Does it change, you think, in terms of more decision power, or what was the question background?
So one investor, I think it's actually, we can pilot with one investor and one investee in one country. If you have more cases to do it in more countries, that's also welcomed. And I think also as contributions from the UNDP side, we are going to put this kind of technical advisory services to design the pilots, and then also to do that research, on, what needs do we want to address, how this is going to be integrated into the value chain of the investee. So to answer to the question, there is no need for one investor to be present all over these countries, but if we find one model, it's good for exploring that opportunity.
Morgan, to your question, it was curiosity. What instrument they used?
Yeah, good. But we could put you in connection with Incofin if you want to.
Yeah, I'd love that, please.
Perfect.
I certainly like the direction for sure.
Good. Any other question, feedback before we close the session? Edgar?
I mean, maybe just to add a final point on the example of Incofin. I mean, it's a public case, and we can share also the links and also connect you with Incofin. But what, after discussing with them, we realized is that Incofin as an investor, they didn't necessarily have the technical expertise to develop all this model, let's say. There was a full awareness on how climate risks were impacting the portfolios and the business models of the clients of the investee. So that's why there was this interest. But then let's say the challenges were around on how to engage with an insurance company. It requires very specific technical expertise, how to connect and then scale up this interesting pilot to a level that can benefit not only Incofin MFIs, but then also the full MFIs ecosystem in Nicaragua. It's while connecting it to a program with the government. So I think that's also, as UNDP, as part of our approach, we are trying to address those issues and to be that facilitator that can be, the convener in the table where it's bringing together the investors, the investees, the insurance industry, and the governments to succeed on this experience, and then to assess how best this instrument works at all levels. So maybe let's start with a bilateral discussion, and then I think to answer to the last question, open to please maybe put the emails, and then you will share these too. Open to have those bilateral discussions with you, and then to see how best this can work for all of us. Thank you. I think, Morgan, we're good, right? So thank you, everyone, for joining this discussion. Yeah, very happy to further engage with some of you if you're interested. So please reach out to us. And thank you, Morgan, iGravity team, for organizing this. And thank you to everyone for joining.